Today on Pots and Trowels we've come to Mr Fothergill's press day to have a wander round the seed trials. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, this week we've come down to sunny Suffolk and we've come to Mr Fothergill's to their trial ground. Now we all look through the catalogues and we get our seeds for growing in the garden, but Fothergill's also grow an awful lot here, and as you can see behind me we've got the trial grounds which are growing and testing existing varieties to make sure they do what it says on the packet, but it's also where they trial new varieties that will be launched. So we've got here this year's 2021 varieties and lots of the 2022 varieties. So we're going to have a quick look around the flowers and the vegetables and try and choose what we're going to grow in our garden next year and just share some of those new varieties with you. Well, I've just picked up a list of everything that's growing here on the trial ground. There's about 1,000 different plots of fruit and veg, and in this particular bed here it's all first year flowering perennials. So everything you can see here was sown this spring and it started to flower really well, and it will only get better as we go through August and into September. There's wonderful verbenas there, we've got verbascums, achilles. The agastache is just a magnet for bees. That is absolutely fantastic, and we've got these lovely poloniums as we go down, and I particularly like these stemons here. It's hard to believe that these were only sown in March this year, and they're full of flower. This lovely scarlet one here with these beautiful flowers and a white throat there, and then there's a mixture there. So it's the sort of thing you could grow, and you could select your favourite ones and then grow some cut-ins so that you've got lots in the garden. So masses and masses of colour. But one of the things that I particularly like down here is one of the new introductions that will be in the 2022 catalogue, and again sown this year. So if Jill can keep up with me as we just wander down, and it's this one. These are really popular at the moment. These are Gora, really dainty. I think these little flowering stalks here like this, and these will flower literally right the way through from late spring once they're established, so May time, and they will flower continuously right the way through till September. As long as you keep doing a little bit of deadheading, you'll continuously get these lovely new flower spikes on it. And this is one that will be introduced and in the 2022 catalogue, and this one is called Emeline White, and it is a dwarf compact plant, as you can see, ideal in containers or the border. Sunny, well-drained position, and it will just flourish and look absolutely magnificent. So I'm just going to have a wander around the flower beds, and then we'll have a look at a few veg as well. Now, if you're looking for some fast-growing annual climbers, these Ipamere Morning Glory are absolutely fantastic. Again, these were sown in the spring, grown up wigwams of canes, just like you would do runner beans, and they will flower right the way from late summer through until autumn. There are masses and masses of buds on here, absolutely wonderful. This is probably the traditional colour that you see, but then this one here is a more sort of pinky cerise colour, which is really lovely. Just look at the flower on that. And then for something very different, just look at this one here, very small bright red flower, and it's got this cut leaf there, so it's got the attractive foliage and masses of flower to come. So something you can grow as an annual each year to just get some height in the garden. On the veg side, lots to look at. There's some great courgettes, new varieties and old ones being trialled, and runner beans. And here we've got the leeks, and this is a bed of a new variety that's going to be launched in 2022 called Autora F1 Hybrid. Lovely strong leeks there, sort of that glaucous blue foliage, and these are going to be absolutely wonderful by the autumn. And then just beyond here we've got the onion bed, lots of different types of onions in there. We've got a new red onion just here, which again has made a good sized bulb on this one. So that's one that's certainly worth looking out for. And then if you like your big onions, Kelsey is one that is very, very well known, and it's being reintroduced into the catalogue this coming year, 2022. And just look at those. If you like your big onions, these are grown from seed. These will have been sown in late winter. They're a sweet onion, I always think. They're not too strong, so a nice mild flavour. Not one of the best keepers. The big onions tend to need to be eaten by late autumn. They don't keep through till spring, but really good, and you can get some big ones for the kitchen or to put on the show bench. But just to finish off, I want to pop into the tunnel and look at the tomatoes and cucumbers. Well, in the polytunnel, as you can see, indoor tomatoes, of which there are over 80 different varieties being trialled. They're all grown in 10-litre pots that are then plunged into a grow bag, so they've got a really good root run, and you can see some absolutely amazing plants here. It's yet to start ripening, a little bit later this season, but there's going to be a fantastic crop on all of these, and there's everything from cherries to beefsteak, plum tomatoes, and everything in between. And then on the stage in here, just look at these peppers. I only wish my peppers looked half as good as these. Look at these really wonderful peppers here. Again, not in big pots, but then planted in so the roots go through into the grow bag there. So they've got a big root run, lots of moisture, and dark green foliage. And these are going to have a fantastic crop of peppers of all different shapes, sizes, colours and heat. So really is good to see them growing in this situation to give us ideas for next year. Lovely to be back at the trials here in Suffolk. This is something that I know Fothergills are very proud of, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, it's something we've done for many years, every year. And this is the first time back after an unfortunate break last year.
Yeah, I think last time we were here would be 2019, that's right. And I know sort of with the press, it's always a highlight of the summer coming to the Mr. Fothergill's press day here in Suffolk. So just tell us a little bit about the trials ground at the back here, because there are thousands of different types of plants growing.
We have this just over an acre area here, and it's a working trial, so it's not open to the public. So the press are lucky to come along and have a look around, but it's very much a tool for us. So we'll grow a selection of our ranges. We'll have thousands and thousands of lines, but we'll be growing out maybe a couple of thousand different lines here, out here on the open trial ground, but also in the polytunnels dotted around. So things like tomatoes, peppers, aubergines, indoor crops in the tunnels. Some tomatoes out here, things that do better outside. So this year, funnily enough, we've just moved a big batch of tomatoes out because we found things like beefsteaks, Italians or plum tomatoes that don't do well in polytunnels. Blossom end rot, particular problem for them. So we're seeing how they fare out here, and also our blight resistant varieties we've put out here as well, just to see how they do. Unfortunately, there's no blight, which is a strange thing to say. So yeah, we move things around every year, but we do a number of different things here. We're growing things out to see how they perform. So we kind of treat the area very much as a home gardener would do. So no kind of special chemicals, no special way of treating things. We have plumbed in irrigation here because it's a large area, but really that's it. So we're only using sort of standard processes and sort of methods of growing, so very much as anyone would do at home. And then just seeing how they perform.
And I suppose by doing it that way, it gives you that information then to pass on to gardeners, because you're growing it as they will be growing it.
Yep.
So it puts you in that really good position.
Exactly that. So we look around, we deal with specialist breeders all around the world looking at particular new varieties and developments every year. And so part of that is testing to see what they're saying to us is true, because much like the general public, if you're buying a packet of seeds, it's about faith. We're saying it will be like this. You get a little tiny brown seed and you hope that's what it's going to be. So we're no different. We buy, we go and see trials, we buy what we think is going to be that plant, but just to make sure we test it. So new lines we'll test here, and we'll see how they perform. Things that are grown in tunnels particularly tend to be very good, full of flower, perform very well. You put it out in the open with variations of temperature and wind and that sort of thing, and it can be quite different. So we'll look at that kind of thing before we then bring it into our range. But we'll also be looking at that kind of garden performance all the time, ongoing. Right, just here this year we've got some lobelia trials ongoing, so been around forever. But we've got various batches that we've bought over this season, and we'll be growing those out. So you'll have lots of rows of the same thing, but by growing them together you can see some will be better flowering, more even, better performance with the different weather. So it's quite good actually to have a bit of heavy rain, a bit of wind, a bit of variation in temperature, because we can see how all those things perform. And actually we're quite often surprised sometimes how things do perform. Things that you think wouldn't do that well have stood up very well. And vice versa sometimes. So.
Good, so it's a real true trial. Now I've been looking around and there's quite a few things that are going to be in your 2022 catalogue. You've talked a little bit about how you trial them, but is it, every year you have new things in the catalogue, so presumably there are breeders out there constantly improving strains and creating new cultivars?
There are. But it's getting more difficult. A lot of the development work particularly in vegetables, is for professional growers, and some of the things they're looking for are not what the home gardener wants. So it's often quite difficult, and we've been working quite closely with particular growers actually to try and go back through the gene banks and have a look at some of the old varieties and grow those again and start breeding them and bringing them back online, because the properties that the home gardener wants are a bit different. You want things to crop over a longer period, whereas a professional grower will want everything all in one go. And a good example of that would be things like Brussels sprouts. A Brussels sprout grower will want the whole stalk ready to go in one go. At home you don't want that. You want it to gradually ripen all the way up the stalk, and you can sort of pick them as you go. And the same is true of a lot of other things. You want a gradual spread out crop. That's not a property that growers are looking for.
No, I have the same problem with cauliflowers. They're all come this week, so Jill is busily making cauliflower cheese.
You get into that glut situation where you're thinking, what can I do with 101 courgettes?
There's only so many you can eat for
absolutely.
breakfast, dinner and tea.
So we're dealing with those people all the time. There's specialists all around the world doing different things. So if it's brassicas, it will be Lincolnshire growers in the UK. If we're looking at sweet corn, that was a particular issue a few years ago. Lots of the well-known sweet corns just disappeared because they're not being maintained. That really is a big thing in the States, so we'll tend to be buying off American producers over there. So again, looking at that kind of product, is it right for the UK? And so a lot of the things we'll be looking at might be great, but we then need to look at it for the UK and say, well, actually, will that grow in a UK environment? So it's dealing with lots of different specialists, bringing our kind of specialist knowledge of what the UK market is to play into that, selecting those things we think will be good, trialling them here, keeping that trialling going, because things do vary. Maintenance is a big issue, keeping things nice and clean and things appearing as you hope they would do or have done for many years. So that's all part and parcel of it.
Yeah, it is amazing, and to see it here is really good, to actually come and see them growing in a realistic situation and compare them. It is really good.
It's good for us as well, because if you look around the factory, you'll see thousands of boxes, thousands of paper packets, all going into sachets and seed, which of course is just seed, which in itself is interesting, but maybe not what you want. But this is what people want. This is the end product. You look around you, and actually for my guys in marketing and me, we come out here and we get inspiration. If we can talk about a variety we've seen, if it's a flower, we can wax lyrical about it because we've seen it. Exactly, if it's a veg and we've tasted it, it just adds a different layer, really. It's that kind of honesty of knowing your product. So that's massively useful for us, and even for the people in the factory to see what's out here. And run staff competitions very often each year. We haven't this year, unfortunately, or last year, but we're trying to get them out, and they'll be doing things on the trial here as well. So it's getting everyone involved.
Yeah, which is good. Well, it's great to be here. It's always a privilege to come. So thank you for explaining the procedure.
Good to see you all back here.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
it's great, and we'll have another look round. Thank
Brilliant.
you. Thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and I hope you've enjoyed our tour around Mr. Fothergill's trial ground, and we've picked up a few new ideas that we'll be passing on over the season. But now it's lunchtime, and as you can see, the assembled press are queuing for their lunch, so I'm going to go and join them and get a bite to eat. See you soon. Bye.